Argentina's Vice President, Cristina Fernandez, has questioned the legitimacy and impartiality of the Supreme Court, accusing the judicial body of breaking laws to favor the former president, Mauricio Macri. Also, at least 13 people were killed and another 2 injured in clashes between inmates of a prison in the city of Santo Domingo in north-central Ecuador. On Monday, Moscow and Tehran confirmed that their respective national oil companies have signed a historic cooperation memorandum. The energy giants reached this agreement while Europe is experiencing the worst crisis in its history, and part of the world is affected by the effects of Brussels' decisions. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Argentina's Vice President, Cristina Fernandez, has questioned the legitimacy and the impartiality of the Supreme Court, accusing the judicial body of breaking laws to favor former President Mauricio Macri. The Vice President said that the judiciary has become a political party that prosecutes the forces that oppose it and leaves citizens basically on probation. Cristina Fernandez shared an audiovisual document on her social media featuring a revealing tour that lays bare how justice works at the nation's highest court. Fernandez also said that the sentence against her in the Validad trial is already written and signed, and that she has been subjected to a bias. In the audiovisual document shared by the Vice President Fernandez, she says that Macri's decision opened the way for the process of political, judicial, and media persecution that has been unleashed throughout Latin America. This Monday in Argentina, Delia Giovanola, 96 years old, one of the founder members of the Plaza de Mayo Grandmothers Associations, has passed away. The association has bid farewell with great sadness to the person they described as a militant of memory, truth, justice, and joy. A beloved grandmother, Delia Giovanola, after almost 40 years of struggle, was able to locate and meet her grandson, Martin, in 2015. Argentinian President Alberto Fernandez praised Giovanola and said this tireless woman will remain as an outstanding example for generations to come. In Panama, the 3 organizations that coordinate the protests against the high cost of living and corruption in that country have decided to unite, and they wanted to clearly state that it was the executive, the one that withdrew from the dialogue table. The Alliance of the People, the Alliance of Native Peoples, and the National Alliance for the Rights of the Organized People will hold a meeting this Tuesday to reach a consensus on what issues will be discussed with the government. In addition to the demands already made to the executive, like lower prices for fuel, the basic food basket, and medicines, now they have included the fight against corruption. Luis Arturo Sanchez, a member of the Teachers Union and spokesperson for ANADEPO, said that they reject the biased mediation of the Ombudsman's office, and that their stand reflects the interest of the Panamanian people. The Nicaraguan people held vigils throughout the country to celebrate the 43rd anniversary of the 1979 revolution against dictator Anastasio Somoza. Nicaraguans took to the streets waving flags of the Sandinista National Liberation Front and honored those who gave their lives for the homeland 43 years ago. Earlier, motorcades toured Managua and other cities in the country, showing people's support and affection for the revolution, the National Front, and the government of President Daniel Ortega. Heads of government, progressive leaders, and representatives of political, social, and indigenous organizations arrived in Nicaragua to join in the celebrations. Cuban authorities responsible for managing electricity supply keep looking for alternatives in the national industry to maintain the service affected by the obstacles imposed by Washington's blockade to the acquisition of new equipment. The state-run company, Unión Electrica, undertakes maintenance works to preserve the equipment, although it recognizes there are specific parts that can only be purchased abroad. The country is going through a complex situation in the sector due to the breakdowns of the main power plants involved in the national energy system. Arles Luna, the director of distributed generation at Unión Electrica, stated on national television that the institution is working to find alternatives to overcome the situation. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel held a meeting with professors from the Pedagogical University Enrique José Varona in Havana, where he evaluated the comprehensive training of the teaching staff. At the meeting, professors presented the project Pedagogical Integrity in Training University Professors, a result of the diagnosis made by teachers and students at the university. In this project, they found gaps created by the quarantine time during the COVID-19 pandemic. Professors and students also discussed issues related to cultural training, the lack of visits to museums, and access to lectures. However, the project showed the students' bond and admiration towards the professors. The Cuban head of state highlighted the importance of the project and called on it to reach professors from all degrees and the active teachers. With 95 confirmed cases, Peru became the South American country with the highest number of monkeypox cases confirmed per million inhabitants. According to data from the World Health Organization and Peru's National Center for Epidemiology, Disease Prevention and Control, the nation showed 1.46 cases per million inhabitants, a higher rate than even in Brazil, the country with the highest number of people infected in South America. Numbers published by the Peruvian Ministry of Health registered that the disease is present in 8 of the 25 departments in the country, and the highest numbers are found in 5 districts of metropolitan Lima: Surco, Jesús María, Pueblo Libre, Cercado de Lima, and San Martín de Porres. Venezuela and the world celebrates the extraordinary athlete Yulia Rojas, who made history on Monday by becoming the first to win 3 world triple jump titles. Rojas, 26, won gold at the 2022 World Championships in Athletics in Eugene, in Oregon, the U.S., with a record of 15.47 meters. The Venezuelan athlete achieved this mark, the best of the season, in her second jump in front of some 10,000 fans at the Hayward Field Stadium. She clearly beat Jamaican Shanika Ricketts, who took silver with 14.89 meters, and the U.S. Tori Franklin, the bronze, with 14.72 meters. In fourth place, with a jump of 14.70 meters, was Cuban athlete Leyanis Perez. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. At least 13 people were killed and another 2 injured in clashes between inmates of a prison in the city of Santo Domingo in north-central Ecuador. The National Police, the Armed Forces, and the Ministry of Public Health were called to the emergency. Later on, the National Service for the Comprehensive Care of Adults Deprived of Their Liberty and Adolescent Offenders said it had recovered control of the prison known as Bellavista. The same prison was hit by violence on May 9th, resulting in the death of 44 inmates. The Ecuadorian prison system has been affected with a serious crisis due to confrontations between rival drug trafficking gangs. In 2021, the country saw a wave of prison riots that left more than 300 inmates dead. In a related news, the 11th meeting of Environment Ministers of IBRA America has kicked off in the Dominican Republic. On its first day, there was one common demand: more action and more resources are needed to mitigate the current serious climate crisis. Representatives of Ibero-American government, along with representatives of international organizations such as the United Nations, have agreed that the current climate situation is unprecedented. At the meeting, they acknowledged that the governments are obliged and compelled to send political signals and guarantee transparency and long-term and political certainty in the management of the current situation. Latin America and the Caribbean Regional Climate Change Coordinator of the United Nations Environment Program, Gustavo Mañez, said that the current climate crisis is huge and that it requires financing. Along the same lines, Andrea Mesa, the Secretary of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, described the situation as a planetary crisis. The National Network for the Defense of Human Rights reports that the death toll in Haiti has risen to 300 as a result of the armed violence between gangs. The organization detailed that about 160 people have been wounded at the moment, most of the victims being civilians. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights recently denounced that this situation affects the most vulnerable population of the city of Port-au-Prince. According to the international organization, 934 murders and 680 kidnappings have been reported from January to June 2022, which certifies the increase of human rights violations against the local population. In Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro once again attacked the country's electoral system. In a meeting with ambassadors in Brasilia, he questioned without evidence an alleged vulnerability of the electronic ballot boxes. The president has criticized the electronic voting system, arguing that it will be used against him in the upcoming presidential elections. Bolsonaro claimed that there was fraud in the 2014 and 2018 elections, when he was elected president, stating that he should have been declared the winner in the first round. The opposition and some analysts believe this is part of a strategy to ignore an eventual defeat and hinder the electoral process, given the polls that position former President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva with a wide lead in the voting intention. In the United Kingdom, a majority of members of parliament gave a vote of confidence to the cabinet headed by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. According to the results of the vote, a total of 349 MPs voted in favor of giving their vote of confidence to Johnson's government, while 238 voted against. The British Prime Minister announced on July 7th the decision to step down amid a new scandal that triggered several resignations in his cabinet. The Labour Party tried to introduce a motion of censure against Johnson's government, but the Conservatives blocked this attempt on July 12th. Until there is a replacement, Boris Johnson will remain in office. The European Commission announced on Monday the purchase of 54,530 additional doses of monkeypox vaccine, concerned about a nearly 50% increase in cases in the European Union in a week. The European executive said in a press release that with this new purchase, the number of doses acquired from the bloc from the Danish laboratory Bavarian Nordic amounts to 163,620. According to figures from the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, Europe is the most affected region in the world by monkeypox, with more than 7,000 confirmed cases as of July 14th. Known in humans since 1970, this disease is considered much less dangerous and contagious than the smallpox, which was eradicated in 1980. It manifests with flu-like symptoms and skin rashes and usually clears up on its own after 2 to 3 weeks. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Monday, Moscow and Tehran confirmed that their respective national oil companies have signed a historic cooperation memorandum. The energy giants reached this agreement while Europe is experiencing the worst crisis in its history, and part of the world is affected by the effects of Brussels' decisions. Iranian National Oil Company and the Russian energy giant Gazprom signed on Tuesday a memorandum of cooperation. Once the agreement was made public, Mohsen Kazdemer, the executive director of the Iranian oil company, said that it is the largest foreign investment in the history of the Iranian oil industry and that it is expected to bring in millions of dollars for the development of gas and oil fields. The details and the scope of the agreement will be announced in the coming hours. And in relation, Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Tehran on Tuesday to attend a trilateral summit with the leaders of Iran and Turkey. This is the first official visit of the Russian head of state since the beginning of the special military operation in Ukraine. Before the trilateral meeting, Putin met separately with Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. The 6-year conflict in Syria, Iran's nuclear energy program, and economic cooperation between Moscow and Tehran are expected to top the agenda of the summit. Tehran brought together Russia, Turkey, and Iran heads of state as the leaders of the sponsored countries of the Astana process, which was initiated and started in 2017 for peace in Syria. The International Organization for Migration confirmed that 193 asylum seekers were returned to Libya after being rescued off the coast last week. In a statement, the international organization reported that more than 10,000 people have been rescued and returned to Libya so far in 2022, including more than 600 women and 400 minors. The IOM also said that nearly 200 people died and more than 600 others went missing on the central Mediterranean route in 2022. Libya has been suffering insecurity and chaos for many years, making the North African country a preferred point of departure for people who want to cross the Mediterranean Sea to the European shores. Now we move on to other topics. 2 earthquakes hit Afghanistan's Paktika and Badakhshan provinces, injuring at least 10 people. According to authorities, the eastern Paktika province's Gayan district, which was severely devastated by a 6.1 magnitude earthquake on June 2022, was struck again by a quake. The provincial governor's office said several residences were damaged, and the teams have been rushed to the scene to rescue people. The earthquake had a magnitude of 5.1 and was centered at a depth of 10 kilometers in the Kos province. The second quake struck the northeastern province of Badakhshan with a magnitude of 4.3, and its epicenter was in the province's Jorm district. European government representative met in Berlin, Germany, to analyze the emergency climate situation in the region. More than 1,000 people have died in Europe due to the current heat wave. The south of Europe is experiencing a heat wave with record temperatures already exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. The entry of a warm air mass from the Sahara, which has already hit France and the United Kingdom, will cause several cities to experience unprecedented high temperatures. To make matters worse, there is a constant threat of wildfires, like it's recently been the case of Portugal, France, and Spain. The heat wave is also affecting countries such as Belgium, Italy, Greece, and Turkey. The respective governments are trying to reinforce security measures and emergency measures and services also. In view of the seriousness of the situation, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the world must choose between collective action or collective suicide. The United Kingdom on Tuesday recorded its hottest ever temperature reading, with the mercury rising to 39.1 degrees Celsius in the southern town of Sherwood, according to the Met Office Weather Service. The record-breaking day followed the country's warmest ever night, with temperatures in some regions remaining above 25 degrees Celsius. The UK's previous all-time record high of 38.7 Celsius was set in 2019. Tuesday's record could be broken again as the day goes on, with temperatures expected to continue rising. British officials issued the UK's first ever extreme heat emergency, extending from London in the south to Manchester and Leeds in the north. Train services were disrupted by buckled rails, and more travel disruption was expected. And Belgium's Prairie Disaster Zoo, located in Wallona in the province of Hainaut, puts special measures in place to protect animals and visitors from the heat. The animals are given frozen fruit suspended in water, and extra showers to alleviate the impact of the extreme high temperatures on them. Also, the visitors can enjoy a fresh mist that helps them to tour the facilities without suffocating. Big state-run museums, primarily in Brussels, took the unusual step of offering free access on Tuesday to the people over 65 to help them to stay cool. Experts blame climate change for the latest heat wave and note the more frequent extreme weather will only worsen in the years to come. The heat wave, the second to engulf parts of Europe in recent weeks, has contributed to deadly wildfires in France, Greece, Portugal, and Spain, destroying vast tracts of land. TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now, more than ever, the world connects to us, and our stories are heard in other farther away nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but before our farewells, we would like you to introduce a song written by Paulo Gomes, a farmer who lives near the city where Brazil's former president Lula da Silva was born. Remember, you can find these and many other stories and materials on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on our socials. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.
Sendo refém, é vereador, roubando deputado, é corrupção pra todo lado. Lula dá um jeito no nosso Brasil, Lula dá um jeito no nosso Brasil, Lula dá um jeito no nosso Brasil, Lula dá um jeito. Nos faróis das ruas você vê crianças estendendo as mãos e os velhinhos de carrinho catando papelão. Os de alta classe vê lá de cima de avião e não tá nem aí com nossa nação. Tentaram parar o herói da nação, mas Lula votou como campeão. Tentaram parar, botaram um novo, mas Lula votou pros braços do povo. As autoridades fecham os olhos para não ver que em muitos lugares não tem nada para comer. O desemprego e a fome andam na mesma mão, o alfabetismo ainda existe, falta religião. O desemprego e a fome andam na mesma mão, o alfabetismo ainda existe, falta religião.